I'm making this video based on a couple of client meetings and chats I had last week, which I have to say were quite difficult. Difficult from the point of view of it's making the client aware of the tax bills that are coming or towards the end of this year and into the start of next year, and difficult because of the impact that coronavirus has had on businesses and business owners. There was, during the month of March, the latter half of March and into early April, a lot of business owners went into a bit of a meltdown. Totally understandable. Wondering how they're going to be able to keep their business afloat. When's the whole lockdown situation going to end? How are they financially fixed and how are they going to be fixed to navigate through that period? So what I think happened during that period, and it was really a natural thing to happen, was a lot of short-term planning was being done in people's minds and not even on a formal basis. It was just, let's get through this. And for firms like ourselves, we were simply supporting our clients through that, and talking them through the whole process of getting government support, of being able to furlough staff, and claim support for that as well. And now that the economy is open again and businesses are open and starting to trade again, then the aim of a lot of businesses now is just try to get things back to normal as soon as they can, and go from there. The tricky part of the conversations now is I'm sitting down with clients and saying, well, look, let's give you the report on how the business actually did up to the end of March 2020 and look at what your tax return looks like. And therein lies the shock. The shock is, for some clients that I've looked at, is that their business was doing better until lockdown happened. They were having a better year than they were for the previous year until lockdown happened. And when they look at their results once a year, it's a sort of, it's quite late in the day to find that out. Albeit that is how a lot of small businesses have been and continue to operate. So we're sitting down and saying, look, this is how your business has done. There's additional turnover, there's better gross profit, you've made more profit, and therefore there's going to be a bit more tax to pay. Add on to that the impact of the government support. So some of our clients would have been eligible for £10,000 or £25,000 business support grant. That was based on the fact that they had a business property which they owned or were renting, and they were paying rates on that property, so they were given 10 or 25 grand government grant. Some of those clients got the grant before the end of March, so their profit has immediately increased by a one-off boost by that grant. So an additional 10 or 25 grand of profit has hit their tax return, and they have tax to pay in that come the end of January. Some clients didn't get their money until after the end of March or until middle or towards the end of April, and they felt like they were probably unlucky not getting the support sooner. But in actual fact, now there's a plus side to that, because any tax on that grant is going to be payable January 2022. So whereas clients I'm speaking to now who got the grant earlier, which was a good thing, now you have £2,000 or £5,000 of tax to pay on the grant that they received. So that's the really, really tricky conversations. And there's no way around that. There's not much we can do. You can't do anything to mitigate that at all, other than start saving money now as your business trades for the next 4, 5 or 6 months to pay the tax that's due in January 2021. And tricky conversations are also arising around what happens if I can't pay my tax. And yes, this from my perspective, I see a second wave of financial difficulties coming in the first sort of 3 to 6 months of next year, when self-assessment tax bills will be hitting in January, and there'll be less payment on account made this year because those were deferred in July. You'll have 2 VAT bills potentially coming in March next year, so businesses are going to find that pinch coming. Of course, then you might have to start paying your bounce back loan back. So the big message, folks, is now is the time to plan for this and do it on a formal basis. And yes, you may have to pay the likes of ourselves for additional services, but in order to make sure your business certainly survives but plans to thrive, then paying for these additional services to accountants like ourselves is going to see you right in the long run. Going towards these situations now with a blindfold on and not doing any kind of formal planning around that into how you're going to mitigate those, or how you're going to, save or plan your cash flow accordingly, it's not good. It's really not the right thing to do. What you should have as a small business of any description is a business plan. Every business should have one. If you don't have one, you need to get one, and I would recommend get it now. You should do some kind of budgeting and forecasting, certainly for the next 12 months, and we can certainly assist with that. So whilst we're still going to have a lot of these tricky conversations, what we want to educate our clients and all small business owners on is the need for proper budgeting, proper business planning, proper forecasting now, rather than leaving it until closer to the time when there'll be not much you can do other than negotiate with HMRC about those payments. And if you can avoid doing that, that's a preferred option, because that's just going to suck time away from you, energy away from you, when you really want to just devote your time into managing and growing your business to thrive and not survive. So look, I hope that's useful. I know there's content in there that it's just a reality check, but I think it's necessary to get the information out there. So now's the time to finalise that year, get your tax return done, find out where you're at, and start planning forward to pay the taxes that need to be paid, or make plans to get the funding in place to be able to do these things and allow your business to continue on as fluidly as it possibly can.